So my name is Mark. I graduated in 2008. I am a tactical analyst for the federal government. I work for a federal law enforcement agency focusing on counterterrorism. So a little different vein of the sociology major. It's funny when Justin and Katie were talking about classes. It's funny, I was writing them down, just remembering. I came in undecided. I didn't know what I didn't even know what sociology was. I think I came in like everybody, like, oh, biology, I'm good at science, I'll be a doctor or something like that. And then it just was not, it wasn't what I expected, you know. It was more of a fast track for, hey, let's try to pump out some doctors. And I'm sure a lot of you guys had that experience. And then I minored in theology because, you know, growing up Catholic, I felt like God would smite me if I didn't take Catholic classes at Loyola. So I ended up with that. And I took the Self and Society class with Dr. Conradi. I think might have been one of your first years teaching because you were new. And I was like, wow, this is for me. This is it. Everything like clicked, like Justin was saying. It just made sense, the micro sociology. And, you know, we were talking about, you know, social breaching and all that other stuff. And it just really focused on me. The macro I didn't like so much. I appreciate it, but it doesn't speak to me. So that class was fantastic. And then I had to wait because we did not, from there was a criminology class, but it wasn't offered every semester and it wasn't even offered every year. And so I took Dr. Conradi. I think you started teaching from Dr. Keene, one of the criminology classes, one of the intros, because I think she taught one of the advanced ones. And that was a fantastic class. And a little anecdote about that, that was the first time that I read like a journalistic article from an unreliable author. And we were reading about broken windows theory from NYPD's perspective from Commissioner Bill Bratton, right? I don't know if you still teach that or if it's still looked at. But it was fascinating because you're reading it, you're like, oh, this makes perfect sense. This is really, and then you're like, but this doesn't work. And you had to give us context of then reading the alternate theory of really developing their critical theory of like, and the critical reading of, you know, just because it's written down doesn't mean it's true, and you need to dig deeper. And what's funny is I had a supervisor this past year that actually, she's an NYPD detective, and she had a framed picture of Bill Bratton on her desk when she retired. And you know, it's different. It's still floating around. It still hangs out there. And then Dr. Van, I got to give you a shout out because I took the gender studies class, and that was probably the first time, and she remembers that I was really challenged significantly. And we can get into some other things later, but you know, me being a straight white male, upper middle class at Loyola in the Mid-Atlantic region, you know, my recollection of that class was a lot of people had the experience of, oh, this is what normal is, and that doesn't apply to me because I'm not a male, or I'm not white, or I'm not, you know, granted I'm Catholic, but I'm not, you know, Protestant or whatever. And it was like, oh wait, that is me. But then seeing everyone around me, realizing, okay, that is everybody else's experience, and kind of stepping out of my shoes and realizing, hey, there's an alternate perspective to this that you don't understand. And Dr. Van, I don't know if you remember this, but I did not do well in that class. And that was my learning experience, because I'm not supposed to get that because it's not my experience. And that was by far the worst class I ever had in college, because it was, you know, not my experience. And that was a learning experience for me. But then also being a privileged white male, graded on the curve, it still bumped up to a B-. So thanks for that, Dr. Van. I appreciate you perpetuating the system with that. So I don't know what everybody's interest is. I think we can get into that in a question and answer session later. I don't want to speak too much about topics that you may not be interested in. When I've spoken before, not a lot of students are necessarily interested in government or kind of extremism, but I just wanted to hit some high points of things that you will get from a sociology degree, and especially a liberal arts degree at Loyola, that you may not have thought about. So when we had a career night my senior year, we had a lot of professionals that came in that worked all different areas. Some ended up in business. Some actually ended up in private practice. I did not realize at the time that as a sociology, like social worker, if you worked in private practice, that you could make some real money. And since then I've actually had experience where people saving up, building their own private practice, and if that's something that interests you, something that can be a very fulfilling career, but also one that's very lucrative. I did not realize that at the time, and so the career night was very beneficial for me to hear that. Obviously, I didn't end up like that. I work for the government, but there's just a lot you can do with this degree. One of the most important things that I've seen professionally is just writing and communication skills. You'd be shocked at how just writing an email, being able to communicate in prose and like written form, how that is severely lacking in the professional world. Obviously, that's something that you get with trying to communicate your ideas in a sociology degree that you may not necessarily get somewhere else, but that's something that you really don't think about necessarily when you're applying to a job or working through something, is just the communication skills that you have working in this major. On top of that, is group projects. So I used to do recruiting for us, and we would actually come around to Loyola and some other schools. And you may think, well, what do I do in college? This almost feels like high school when I'm forced to work with people I don't know in the class and pair up. And I remember Dr. Conradi, we did a group project about designing your own like criminal justice police force. What would that look like with community policing, the broken windows, or that type of stuff. We had to do a group project. I forget whose class it was for, but for mine, we did like social breaching, and we went to the mall and we're like close talking with people, and just how uncomfortable that made just the normal people. That might have been the Self and Society. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was Self and Society.
Self and Society.
I walked the opposite way on the bridge.
Yeah, walking the opposite side. Yeah. In an elevator facing the wrong direction elevator. I still do that to freak people out at work. But what's interesting is when we hire and we're looking to hire college graduates, recent college graduates, understanding that you may not have all that professional experience, that other experience definitely comes into play. So just remembering, like, okay, what did I do? What was the problem that I identified? How do I solve it? And not what did my group do, but what did I do within my group is essential. That is essential stuff that we look for. And I kind of even bring up to this day when I'm doing interviews. And then the last thing I'll mention, just a shout out to Loyola, is really use career services. I was interviewed and got my job through career services. And just refreshing my resume and that type of stuff. Career services is really beneficial. Take those classes, work on those resume writing samples, because resume writing is an art and it is terrible in the real world. It is horrific how bad some of the resumes that you see are. And I actually got my placement, and you really got to trust them, but I got my placement where I am from my experience. I studied abroad in Japan. I don't know if they still have the trade program with Sophia University in Tokyo, but I just did a summer semester, and I studied actually Japanese society, which is a sociology class. But that was one of the things that I put on my resume that popped, that made them pull my resume. That kind of ended up with my pretty good placement. And we can get into that a little later, but it was just little things like that that really, really worked out. And the last thing that I'll say is really, especially for the undergrads, is take advantage of what Loyola has to offer. Do they still do the sophomore experience? Seeing basic nodding, not seeing any nodding from current students. I'm going to assume that's a no, or nobody did that. But it was a good experience. And that was really good at discerning. It's how they talk about discernment and everything, the Jesuits, about really like, okay, is this really what I want to do? Is this a good fit for me? So that's all I have. I have some other notes written down, but really I think that's just the wave tops of like really, I mean, like we all said before, sociology degree, really beneficial, not just for what you automatically think of like necessarily going to social work or being a teacher like Justin said, but in my career field where we have a little bit of everybody, it's essential for getting the job done. So that's all I have.
That's like a tagline. Sociology, essential for getting the job done. There you go.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So questions.
The question I have, like, I'm asking because, like, when I've like gone to apply for jobs, like, and like I've got in interviews and stuff, they always like ask about my sociology major, and like they kind of make it like sound like they're not like impressed with it, like that they're like looking for a different major. And so like I always get like weird questions about it, and I never know how to like answer. Like I always try and just be like, oh, like it's taught me good listening skills because of like the seminar format, and it's like allowed me to public speak and like writing skills, but I never like know if that's like the right thing to like be taking from everything. So I don't know. This is like a question to everyone, I guess.
So I would say, I mean, I think, I guess, let me ask you what jobs you're applying for, if you don't mind sharing with the group.
Yeah, like a ton, because I have no idea what I want to do. So like right now I'm doing the Disney college program, which is like only 6 months. So
Okay.
I have that. But like before I was applying for like marketing jobs and like random like career launch stuff at like Fidelity, like just like things that like casting my net wide just to see what was out there. And then I ended up like getting the Disney one, so I did that. But like, so I guess I was applying to like all of them. Like,
So I would say, when they say sociology, most people don't know what sociology means, right? It's like an academic discipline, and it's not a feeder program into something else. So that's why I wanted to write it down, because when I was doing interviews and some of the things is that, like, you really want to hammer on, you know, yes, it's a sociology degree, but I'm not an academic. No offense, Dr. Moretti, Dr. Van. Actually, I'm kind of waiting to see Dr. Van's like house start shaking, because I'm sure she's running around like Europe somewhere, like talking to people that are getting bombed out or saving somebody or something like that. I know she did her study abroad or her stuff in Prague, but you're really selling the idea that, like, I'm a people person, right? I understand people. I can talk to people. But I can also communicate and write. And it's not that I can go and party and hang out and talk to anybody. It's no, but I can apply this academically and as a discipline about it. So I can study data, I can understand data, but also, you know, I can work in a group, right? I can make presentations. Just a side note, my brother he went to UPenn, he graduated cinema studies and economics major, and he went to work for Macy's, because we graduated in 2008, which was like the financial downturn, right? And then he got a master's degree from NYU Stern in the business school, and now works for Salesforce, which is he's a data scientist for Salesforce. He still makes PowerPoints and does slide decks, just like everybody else. His job and my job are, I don't want to say similar, because he has that coding element that I don't have. But it's really, the world's almost flat for what the corporate world kind of looks at. So that's what I would say, is you want to sell yourself in that sense of, like, you know, I'm an academic, but also I can talk to people, because you'd be amazed. Like you said, you got the Disney job. Disney's a very difficult job to get, right? Disney is a very difficult place to get in the door. And so that's already a step ahead, right? So you're building that experience, and that's how you want to sell yourself, right? Is that I can talk to people, I can write, I can communicate, that whole stuff, as opposed to like, oh, I'm good with numbers. No offense to that, but Dr. Gray, are we still recording? You want to keep recording this stuff?
Like,
Share some more stories.
Okay, I can turn it off. I'll stop it now.